Seattle is one of the most slept-on cities in the country that hip-hop legends have emerged from now for decades. Hip-hop having only been around since the early 70s, with New York being its birthplace. It took some time for the genre to grow popularity and spread to the notorious Northwest. August 25, 1982, at Swedish Hospital in Seattle, Washington, a star was born. David Barrow Zimar, known as DZ, was named after his Lebanese father, David George Zimar, who was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in 1946. His father, Joseph George Zimar, migrated as an immigrant by way of boat from Lebanon to the United States in the 1920s. DZ's mother, Gilda Lee Barrow, was born in 1946 in Kernsville, North Carolina, and was a distant relative of Clyde Barrow, one half of the infamous outlaw duo Bonnie and Clyde. DZ was born around the time when Northwest hip-hop was still in its infancy. Sir Mix-a-Lot was the first rapper to surface from Seattle in the mid-'80s, putting the Emerald City on hip-hop's radar with his breakthrough single, Posse on Broadway. Not long after that, one of his crew members, Kid Sensation, dropped his own solo album in 1990, but it was Baby Got Back that truly catapulted Seattle into the spotlight, cementing Sir Mix-a-Lot's legacy in hip-hop and putting Seattle on the map for rappers. Before making his way into the hip-hop industry, DZ's journey began in Seattle, shaped by his unique upbringing, involvement in sports, and the cultural influences around him. DZ grew up in an inner-city neighborhood in Seattle, balancing school, sports, and his passion for music. His love for music was shaped by the world around him, his parents, friends, and even his time in the school choir, all exposing him to different sounds and influences.
I remember it like it was yesterday. My dad would always give me a ride to school in the morning in his 1976 Mercedes-Benz 450 SL convertible coupe. And on his 8-track player every morning, he would play all the greats, from Elvis Presley to Whitney Houston to Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, Jimi Hendrix, Diana Ross, Prince, Lionel Richie, Neil Diamond, the Beatles, the list goes on. Pops laced my tennis shoes early when it came to this music stuff, and I'm forever grateful. Shout out to you, Dad.
Fueling his growing intrigue and deep connection to music, DZ attended St. Joseph Elementary School in Seattle from K to 8th grade. This is where he had the opportunity to develop his musical skills, learning how to sing, and later playing a lead role in a Jesus Christ Superstar musical church performance in front of the entire school. Talk about a performance. Basketball was his other passion, and he excelled at it. Like many student athletes, he naturally fell into the popular crowd. His athletic success pushed him into the world of older kids in the neighborhood, giving him a taste of things most kids his age wasn't even aware of.
I'd say a couple years had went by, and we had got us a tape player. Me and Dad used to love to go to Tower Records on Mercer Street. He would always get himself a couple tapes and get me a couple too. The ritual continued. Every morning as we rode to school, we would listen to music. But now instead of listening to Diana Ross, we would listen to DJ Quick. Instead of listening to Prince, we would listen to Ice-T. And instead of listening to the Jackson 5, we would play NWA. Safe to say, moments like these shaped my childhood and turned me into who I am today.
By the time he was just 8 years old, still in 3rd grade, he was already making trips to Tower Records, picking up cassette tapes with parental advisory labels. Artists like NWA, Too Short, DJ Quick, Ice Cube, and became the soundtrack of his childhood, shaping his perspective long before most kids even knew who those names were. There's a reason those parental advisory labels were slapped on gangster rap. It was raw, unapologetic music that spoke to the harsh realities of inner-city life, poverty, violence, drug use, and the constant fight for survival. While this wasn't music meant for young ears, it undeniably had a profound impact on DZ, shaping his outlook and pushing him in a direction that would define his path. DZ's passion for music was undeniable. One Christmas, at just 7 years old, he unwrapped a Sony Walkman, a gift that became his most prized possession. That little cassette player never left his side. He soon began a cassette tape collection, which included album titles like Easy Does It by Eazy-E, Scandalous by High C, Quick is the Name by DJ Quick, and Born to Mac by Too Short, to name a few. Another Christmas brought a major upgrade in the world of technology, a Sony Discman for his growing CD collection. Young DZ was leveling up in the world of music.
My mom would always pick me up from school, and on the way home, we would always listen to Cube 93, a local radio station in Seattle that used to play hip-hop and R&B. And on the way home, we would always have to pass by Tower Records, and I would beg her to stop, and she would, and I would go up in there for hours, staring at the covers of the cassette tapes, looking through the credits, reading the feature names, seeing what year they came out, what label they came through, really studying this shit. I always been a student of hip-hop and had a love for music.
After school, DZ's favorite spot was Tower Records on Mercer Street in Seattle. He would spend hours there, completely immersed, doing everything from reading early issues of The Source magazine, XXL magazine, Murder Dog magazine, and Vibe magazine, to flipping through cassette tapes and later CDs. It wasn't just about buying the music, it was about studying it. Back then, discovering new artists meant scanning the aisles, taking in the album artwork, reading track lists, checking the features, and memorizing the names of producers. DZ talks about how his mother was a little more on the stricter side and had a sharp eye for parental advisory stickers. If she saw one, the album went right back on the shelf.
My mom would always let me get a cassette tape too, but she ran a much stricter program than my pops. She would never let me get the albums with parental advisory signs, so I would have to get stuff like Another Bad Creation, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, Vanilla Ice, and MC Hammer. But it kept me well-rounded. And around that time, I started getting to R&B, because it never had a parental advisory sign, and I just liked the way it sounded. I used to play Keith Sweat, Jodeci, Genuine, Silk, Boyz II Men, Drew Hill, R. Kelly, the list goes on. You name it. I really grew up listening to some of the greatest R&B artists of all time.
Growing up, DZ had many favorite hip-hop and R&B artists that he would regularly listen to, but his all-time favorite and most influential was the late great Tupac Shakur.
Yeah, I got into R&B for a minute, but I still loved all that West Coast gangster shit, like Ice-T, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Too Short, and DJ Quick. But my all-time favorite rapper was Tupac, Mr. Tupac Shakur. Yeah, Tupac was my favorite rapper coming up as a kid, and I wanted to be just like him. I had a poster of Tupac on my wall in my bedroom, and I had all Tupac's albums, starting with his very first on cassette tape, Tupacalypse Now. Then I had Strictly for My Thugs, Me Against the World, All Eyes on Me, the double disc, which was my favorite Tupac album, Machiavelli, Tupac and the Outlaws, Tupac Thug Life. I love Tupac. Tupac was the truth. I miss him. I loved all his movies too. My favorite two were Above the Rim and Juice. Tupac definitely had a heavy influence on my upbringing. Long live Tupac. R.I.P. King.
DZ idolized Tupac, not just as a rapper, but as a force of nature. Pac was raw, unfiltered, and fearless. The way he spoke, the way he carried himself. He had an undeniable charisma that commanded attention. But what resonated with DZ the most wasn't just the music or the attitude. It was Pac's drive to inspire change, to use his voice for something bigger than himself. That was the kind of influence DZ wanted to have on the court, in the classroom, in the studio, and in the community. Two themes consistently ran through DZ's childhood: his deep love for music and his passion for basketball. These weren't just hobbies. They were foundational pillars in his life that molded his mentality on and off the court. Pre-game warm-up rituals would consist of listening to Tupac on his Sony Walkman cassette player to get mentally prepared to dominate the court. Tupac was motivation and inspiration, with an unmatched energy that would invoke emotion depending on the song vibe. Before the game, DZ would listen to songs of Tupac's like Ambitions of a Rida that would put him in a dominating, victorious mind state, ready to conquer and control the court. Alongside the influence of Tupac, another powerful figure who shaped DZ's mindset was none other than the iconic Michael Jordan, one of the greatest to ever touch a basketball.
My whole upbringing, I was heavy into basketball, and one of my biggest influences was Michael Jordan, along with Tupac. And Mike, man, want to be like Mike. I had all his shoes, I wanted to play as good as him on the court. I strived to be the greatest on the court like him. I was point guard like him. Man, he was relentless. He was somebody I idolized and looked up to. So definitely coming up, I wanted to be like MJ.
Growing up, DZ had all of Michael Jordan's basketball cards like he had all of Tupac's albums. He had all the Jordan jerseys and all the Jordan shoe releases. He was always into having organized collections. Whether it be music, sports, or shoes, he was always a collector. In his bedroom, he had posters on the wall of Tupac and Michael Jordan. Jordan's discipline, determination, and greatness inspired DZ to chase excellence in everything he did. But above all, DZ's greatest influence was his father, a steady example of hard work and dedication. Watching him provide for the family with quiet strength taught DZ that true greatness isn't just about talent, but about showing up, staying committed, and leading with purpose. Basketball was a strong foundation, though, for key qualities DZ possesses today and where he learned the skills of networking and hustle. Dedicated to the sport, he attended local basketball camps each summer at high schools like Seattle Prep and colleges like the University of Washington, honing his skills, showcasing his talent, and networking with players and coaches, establishing his existence as a superstar on the court and off.
Yeah, every summer I'd play in basketball tournaments like the 3-on-3 Hoop It Up and go to basketball camps all over town at all the local high schools and colleges. Man, those camps were so much fun. I used to look forward to those camps every summer. One summer I even went to a basketball camp in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina. Coach Dean Smith, the Tar Heels, and Vince Carter was my coach for the week, who later became an NBA superstar. Man, so many memories. The good old days.
This had young DZ inspired, further pushing him to pursue the sport and chase his dreams of one day becoming an NBA superstar. While attending St. Joseph Grade School, DZ's choir class landed a major opportunity, singing the national anthem at a Seattle SuperSonics home game at the Key Arena. For a young kid, it was an unforgettable moment.
I remember one summer I was in about the 7th or 8th grade, and I went to the George Karl basketball camp. And George Karl was the Seattle SuperSonics basketball coach at the time. And I balled out so hard at his basketball camp and went toe-to-toe with his son Kobe Karl, scoring bucket after bucket. Everybody in that whole gym wondered who I was. George Karl personally introduced himself and had me come be the ball boy for the SuperSonics for a couple games. And I did, and it was a lot of fun. Shout out George Karl. That same week I met Jason Terry, who later became my mentor and a good buddy of mine, and the main reason I went to the University of Arizona. Shout out JT.
Looking back, it wasn't just about basketball. It was DZ's first glimpse into the power of networking. It was a lesson that would stick with him in any industry. It's not just what you know, but who you know, and more importantly, who knows you.
Yeah, I always been a hustler and an entrepreneur. I remember every year at St. Joe's, we would have a fundraiser where we went door to door and sold candy bars. I would always be the top salesman in my class, top rank in the school, and every summer I would set up a lemonade stand in front of our house, thirsty for money, trying to sell everybody lemonade who walked up and down the street. This shit's always been in me, not on me.
DZ, the rapper and entrepreneur we know today, started from that same hustler's mentality. A young kid with hustle, whether it was selling candy or lemonade. Keep watching and you will see how his grind paid off in a major way later in the video.
By the time the school year rolled around, it came by no surprise that everybody would love me for my unique personality and gravitate towards me. Upperclassmen on the varsity football team would invite me to their private keg parties, where I would get drunk out of a red plastic cup and bust random freestyles. This felt like the birth of my rap career.
DZ's high school journey began at Bishop Blanchett, where his talents on the basketball court and football field quickly made him stand out. He ran with the popular crowd, the ones who seemed to have it all figured out, until weekends rolled around and keg parties became the norm. It was in the haze of those late nights, surrounded by pounding music and rowdy laughter, that DZ stumbled upon something unexpected, a gift for freestyling rap. Undeterred, he transferred to John F. Kennedy High School, carrying with him the same fire. On new fields and courts, he kept chasing his love for football and basketball, and maybe, just maybe, something bigger was starting to take shape. After graduating from Kennedy High School, he attended the University of Arizona, located in Tucson, Arizona. The campus was well known for its crazy parties, pretty girls, and excruciating hot weather. Growing up, DZ watched his childhood friend Jason Terry, once just another kid from Seattle, rise from Franklin High to college stardom, then to the NBA and a championship with the Mavericks in 2011, planting a dream in his heart that would one day lead him to start his own college journey. Stepping out of his parents' house and into college life out of state, DZ was finding his footing in a whole new world. But no matter how far he went, he always stayed true to his roots. Back in high school, freestyling had been his icebreaker, and that same energy carried over to college.
When I got to Arizona, things weren't any different. Still a bunch of parties. But now instead of drinking beer, I was drinking liquor. Instead of drinking Mickey's, I was drinking Hennessy. And once a few shots kicked in, at every party, I would start freestyling.
At first, rap was just for fun, nothing more than a party trick. But the more he did it, the sharper he got. And without even realizing it, DZ was starting to hone a real craft.
I remember one night in Arizona, it was my sophomore year, and I lived at a place called the Entrada Real. And after a night of freestyling, one of my roommates named Arthur from the Bay Area pulled me to the side. And he said, "Hey, you ever write any of this shit down?" And I said, "Nah, why? I just be freestyling." And he said, "Man, you should get a beat and try to write a rap down and see how that goes for you." Ever since then, I took his advice, and look at me now.
One day, Arthur pulled him aside and suggested he take it a step further, start writing down his freestyles, shape them into songs, and see where it could lead. DZ took the advice to heart. He began crafting lyrics to the instrumentals of his favorite artists, eventually recording tracks at his friend Paul's house across town in a cramped bedroom, using nothing more than a PC and a handheld karaoke mic. It wasn't glamorous, but DZ didn't care. The first time he heard his own voice over a beat, something clicked. He was hooked, and he had found a new passion. DZ had always been a standout student, balancing a 3.5 GPA with a growing love for writing rap lyrics. During Christmas break of his sophomore year, a visit home to Seattle changed everything.
Yeah, when I lived in Arizona, I would always fly back home to Seattle for Thanksgiving and Christmas break. Over one of those Christmas breaks, I had got in contact with a good buddy of mine named Merrick. Merrick had gotten a keyboard and was making beats, doing some recording in his bedroom. So one night I went over there to check him out and ended up freestyling on some of his beats. He showed me other beats that he had made, so I left up and out of Merrick's house with a handful of beats. When I got back to Arizona, I wrote raps to all those beats, came back later that summer, and went back to Merrick's house, made my very first songs, which later turned out to be my very first album, Game Invested and Involved. Shout out Macatrack.
DZ's crew began to grow, with his childhood friend B-Boy freestyling alongside him, and another close friend, Jesse James, already recording in studios, taking DZ under his wing.
Yeah, funny story. When I first started rapping, I didn't know how to count bars. I didn't know what bars were. I didn't understand the whole bar theory. I had a good buddy who was Merrick's roommate named B-Boy. He was the freestyle king back in the day. He had been rapping longer than me. And I had another good friend named Jesse James who had been doing this rap shit for a while before I started. They both helped me understand bars, count bars, format bars, arrange 16s, 8-bar hooks. Man, shout out B-Boy and Jesse James. Now I'm the bar master of the bar mitzvah. You dig?
As DZ gained momentum and exposure in the rap scene, he connected with Mischievous, a rapper from Portland, and recorded music with her. What he didn't realize at the time was that she would open major doors, eventually introducing him to 3 of his favorite artists coming up: Sibo, T-Nutty, and Marvelous.
That same summer that I recorded those songs at Merrick's house, I was campaigning through the town one day, politicking down by the Seahawks Stadium, and I ran into a guy named Nino. Nino told me that he made music and that he recorded at a nice studio in South Seattle. He told me he would take me there to record a song and introduce me to the owner, and he did. That became the place that I recorded my very first album, Game Invested and Involved. Shout out Mike Daniels and Common Sense Studios, and shout out Mr. 206.
Excited to upgrade from recording at friends' houses, DZ accepted Nino's invitation to the studio. It was DZ's first time in a real studio, and he and Mike instantly clicked. They went straight to work right away. DZ started recording tracks over beats by Mac and continued building momentum. Mike also introduced DZ to his nephew, Cuddy Mac, who helped produce DZ's first studio album, Game Invested and Involved, a title inspired by a slogan from DZ's childhood friends, Sam Dees and Chase. While establishing his own movement, DZ's earlier connections through Mischievous led to collaborations and features on albums like Spice One, Bay Area, Marvelous and T-Nutty, Sacramento, Badass, Long Beach, King George, No Limit Records, KZD, Houston, and local Seattle artists like Jesse James.
Shortly after I finished recording my very first album with Mike Daniels at Common Sense Studios, I found my way down to Disc Makers to press up my first piece of product. Oh boy, I was excited. I was getting ready to hit the streets, gearing up to release my first 2-song single. I was going to sell it all over Seattle. I would hit the nightclubs and the bars and sell it for $2. I would yell out, $2, 2 cuts, $2, 2 cuts. Everybody would buy it. Everybody would support. Everybody had $2 to spare. I sold hundreds of CDs this way, thousands, but I didn't have a street team. It was just me, an independent solo artist with a dream, with a goal, with a vision. I had CDs for sale now, and it felt good.
Known for his $2, 2 cuts hustle, DZ had the city behind him, quickly moving hundreds of CDs and building a strong local buzz.
After being everywhere like air all summer selling my $2 singles, I finally decided to press up my first full-length release, Game Invested and Involved, to take back to Arizona and sell all over campus. And I did just that. Got back to AZ, emptied out my backpack, filled it up with CDs, and got to work. I sold CDs all over that campus to my friends, colleagues, and classmates. I was doing hand-to-hand transactions on a daily basis, seeing straight cash, all off my pure hustle.
As his confidence and momentum grew, DZ started connecting the dots.
Yeah, once I had the CDs in Arizona, I was shaking and moving, making things happen, and I got them into a local record store called Zia Records. One day when I was over there dropping off some CDs, I ran into a guy named Meezy. Meezy told me he had a local rap group from Arizona called VSOP, and that he had a studio and made beats. He invited me to come check out the lab and listen to some beats. I gave him one of my CDs, and he immediately recognized feature names like Spice One, Marvelous, and Badass. He told me he was working on his artist K-Rock's album and wondered if I could hook him up with some features. I got in contact with my folks from Portland, Cool Nuts and Bosco, and got him a verse from E40. Later, I got him 2 verses from Messy Marv. Mees was good business. He always had his money together. One day when I was over at his studio, he said, DZ, if only you knew Kurupt from the Dog Pound, I would pay him $10,000 to do a verse on K-Rock's album. I told him I knew a lot of people, but at the time I didn't know Kurupt, but I'd make a few phone calls and see what I could do.
But how did DZ even connect with Kurupt, a relationship that would later play a major role in his career? It all started through a good friend who played ball and hooked DZ up with front row tickets for a date night with his girl. Knowing there would be a big crowd, DZ brought a few CDs with him, always ready for an opportunity.
Yeah, so the very next day, Valentine's Day to be exact, my partner Hassan Adams that played basketball for the University of Arizona Wildcats had given me and my girlfriend from Seattle tickets to the game. Halfway through the game, I got a call from my boy Mario. Mario told me you won't believe who I just came through exit 27 with. When I asked him who, he said Kurupt from the Dog Pound. Hurry up and get up here. I just told him all about you. I raced up there. I met Kurupt. I gave him one of my CDs and I asked him what he was doing in Arizona. He told me he was shooting a movie. But the first thing that came to mind was the $10,000 that Mies said he would pay Kurupt to do a feature on K-Rock's album. I told Kurupt the whole rundown and he said he was with it. We exchanged numbers and I went back to my seat. The game was almost over and I was getting ready to take off. As I was leaving, Kurupt spotted me and yelled, "Hey DZ, come here." I went to where he was sitting at and he asked me what I was doing that night. I told him I was going to a house party. He said he wanted to go. I told him that I'd drop my girl off and come pick him up wherever he was at. And I did just that. I came to the house party with Kurupt. Everybody went crazy. Me and all my homies from Arizona drank and smoked with Kurupt all night and had a blast. It was definitely a night to remember.
What started as a lucky meeting would spark a connection that would help take DZ's career to the next level.
Yeah, after a long night of partying like a rock star, me and Kurupt got up bright and early to go get the 10 bands from Mies. Mies came through like I knew he would. He came through with it in a nice stack for us when we pulled up. Kurupt was happy. K-Rock came through. We got to meet Kurupt, and they got their verse. Kurupt then looked at me and said, DZ, what you working on? I told him I was working on my second album. He said he wanted to do the intro, the outro, a hook, and a verse, and have his wife Gail Gotti rap on it. I told him, stop it, I can't afford that, Kurupt. He said, nah, you stop it. You're my little brother, my new artist from Seattle. Mies, hurry up and pull up the beat. He did everything he said he was going to do, the intro, the outro, a hook, a verse, had Gail Gotti rap on it. We wrapped that shit up and got up and out of there. As soon as we got in the car, Kurupt gave me $2,500 out of the $10,000, and I pulled off. I said, Kurupt, where we going? Where am I dropping you off? He said, DZ, you ready to be in your first movie? I said, a matter of fact, I am. Where are we going? What's the address? We went to Old Town Tucson. We pulled up. We were late. We walked in. Kurupt said, this is my little brother DZ from Seattle. He's going to be in the last scene with us. We shot the movie, and the rest is history. It was called Cut Off. We got in the car. We went to eat at Red Lobster that night. I think I crashed at Kurupt's resort, wherever he was staying, somewhere fancy in Arizona. I took him and his wife, Gail Gotti, to the airport in the morning, and I told him, Kurupt, nice doing business with you. Nice to know you. I never thought I'd hear from Kurupt again. He's a megastar in the rap game. Shout out Kurupt Young Gotti.
DZ already knew where the parties were, but showing up with Kurupt took his status to another level. Their relationship kept growing. DZ even traveled to visit Kurupt's family and inner circle. Kurupt believed in DZ's potential and used his own name and connections to open doors for him, helping co-sign his place in the rap game.
Yeah, about a week it went by and Kurupt called me up and said, hey, DZ, what are you doing this weekend? I told him probably going to another house party, cracking at some hoes. He said, oh boy, I'm trying to go. I told him stop it. He said, nah, I'm looking at some flights online right now. I'm about to hit you back and let you know what time I land. You better be there to pick me up. I told him it's all good, I got you. He hit me back, told me what time he was showing up. I pulled up to the airport and he came walking out. I couldn't believe Kurupt Young Gotti had came back to Arizona to hang out with young DZ. He jumped in the car and said, DZ, what's up? What are we doing this weekend? We going to another house party and going to get some more money? Right then and there, I realized how sincere, genuine, and cool of a guy Kurupt really was. I told him, I got you, bro. We pulled off and we went to the mall. We got some new Jordans and Xbox and something to eat. We went back to my apartment, smoked weed, played Xbox, and later that night went to a house party. The very next day, we woke up and I had lined up a $4,000 jug for us. We went and got the money, and as we left, Kurupt gave me $1,000. He told me from here on out, DZ, everything you line up, I'm going to give you 20%. That was more than enough motivation for me to go through my phone book and call everybody I knew to see if they wanted to get a verse from Kurupt. And I did.
Shortly after, DZ flew out to California, where Kurupt introduced him as his little brother from Seattle, who gets money. Through Kurupt, DZ met legends like DJ Quick, Be Real of Cypress Hill, Daz Dillinger, and top-tier producers like Battle Cat and Fred Wreck.
I remember when I dropped Kurupt off at the airport that time, he told me, DZ, keep my Xbox at your house. I'll be back next weekend and we're going to Phoenix to hang out with a couple homies of mine from my neighborhood. Keita Rock and CJ. I told him, yep, I got you. He called me the following weekend and told me to pick him up at 3 p.m. at the Phoenix airport. I drove from Tucson to Phoenix. I hooked up with a good buddy of mine from Seattle named Mark Forget. Mark was going to ASU at the time. He had a nice blue Lexus GS 430 with Gucci interior. I hopped in with Mark and we went to go pick up Kurupt. I'll never forget when we pulled up, Kurupt was standing outside in a full-length chinchilla. It was 100 degrees in Arizona. He jumped in, took his jacket off, sweating, and said, turn up the AC, I'm burning up. We laughed and pulled off. We went to Mark's condo and smoked a couple blunts on the balcony. After that, me and Kurupt left to go hook up with Keita Rock and CJ. We hung out all night and had a ball. Then me and Kurupt jumped in my car and drove back to Tucson. He spent the night, we smoked weed, played video games all weekend. Then I took him to the airport again to drop him off. He said, next time, DZ, I want you to come to L.A. Stay with me for a couple days. I want to introduce you to my family. I told him we'd make it happen, and we did. The Menno flip. We're seeing if it really works.
And it does.
I just touched down, L.A.
And already done fucked up the house.
I already done fucked something up. He's on my helmet telling me to sit down. What the fuck else is new?
Sit down and calm it down.
Kurupt Young
Realize
Gotti. The real Young Gotti.
This is a house, not a mouse. Hey, Rick, you want to go outside? You see this? This is a house. A real house, too. $1 million worth.
Can you zoom in on these or no?
Of course you can. Let me show you how.
It's got to be the plus and the minus.
Yep. Zoom in.
Yes, sir.
And we got D Zizzle in the house.
Yeah, DZ in the house, man. DZ TV, man. You know what it is. You know, Sid, the Don himself, young Seattle, put it together like a bunch of Legos.
Bitch.
Doing it real big.
Talk to him.
All at your bitch.
Give it to him.
Try to get these chips.
Yeah.
You know, Sid, if I can't please her, I'm going to squeeze her.
Bitch.
You feel me? If she knew better, she'd do better. You feel me? I'm out here fucking with Young Gotti, bossing like I normally do.
And you do know that, don't ya? Yeah, bitch, you.
You bitch.
But soon, DZ wasn't just being introduced, he was making moves himself.
Yeah, I remember not long after Kurupt had introduced me to Daz Dillinger, the other member of the Dog Pound, I had called Daz up one day to tell him I had a $40,000 jug for us in Seattle. He told me he'd be on the next flight from Atlanta. When he touched down, I picked him up and we went straight to the lab. He knocked the whole album out in one night. We collected the $40,000 and went back to my house to smoke and count the money. He broke me off $8,000, fell asleep with all the money in his lap, woke up and was gone the next morning. Shout out Daz Dillinger, he's a real one. Kurupt got word of what I had done. He said, DZ, how come you didn't line it up for me? I said, don't trip, I got you. I hit John Silva back and told him Kurupt wanted to do an album. He said he had $30,000 to make it happen. Kurupt said this album would include his little brother Roscoe. They showed up the next day in Seattle. We went to the lab for 2 nights and the album was done. We collected the $30,000 and Kurupt broke me off $6,000. At this point, it felt like all the major transactions I was making for mainstream artists had me in the real big leagues. Shout out Kurupt, shout out Daz, shout out Roscoe, and shout out John Silva. Roscoe, what are you doing?
While working his network in the Bay Area, DZ tapped into his hustle and got creative. He set up a laser voicemail system and made a post on sickness.net announcing that Kurupt was coming to the Bay. The message was simple. If you're serious about locking in a feature, drop your number. DZ would handle the rest. To his surprise, it worked. The manager of Messy Marv and Mistah F.A.B. reached out, ready to connect. DZ stayed on point, followed through, and brought everyone together.
Yeah, I remember one college spring break, instead of going to Mexico, me and Kurupt went to the Bay Area. I set up a laser voicemail number and made a post on the sickness.net. Kurupt from the Dog Pound would be in the Bay Area doing features. Tap in. A couple days before we flew out, I checked the messages. I was amazed how many people had hit us up. A ton of independent artists and Bay Area legends like JT the Bigger Figure, San Quinn, Be Legit, and Gary Archard, who managed Messy Marv and Mistah F.A.B at the time, had all reached out. I hit everybody back to line up the business, and it was time to fly in. I got there an hour before Kurupt and picked up a rental. Then I doubled back and picked up Kurupt and his brother Hump, and we were on the way to the first jug. I remember on the way, we drove across this big, long, narrow bridge in the middle of the night. I think it was called the San Mateo Bridge. I was so excited to get the money. I was driving 120 miles an hour across that thing. I remember Kurupt and his brother Hump screaming, DZ, slow down, you're driving too fast, you're scaring us, what are you doing? As they tried to buckle their seatbelts. I laughed. We pulled up to the jug and somebody came down to get us. We got upstairs and I met Ghazi, the president of Empire. He was engineering the session. Shout out Ghazi, he got me my first digital distribution deal. We knocked out the verse and we were on the way to the next jug. We knocked out another verse, got the money, and went back to the hotel. The next day we had plans to meet up with Messy Marv. Next day came, Mess pulled up to the hotel, He had his buddy Jet with him, and we followed him to Live Oak Studios in Berkeley, California. When we got there, Kurupt and Mess knocked out a couple songs, and Mess did a couple verses for me. While we were there, Mr. F.A.B came through, and we got to meet him. Shout out Gary Archer for making it all happen. Shout out James for engineering a great session. And shout out Priscilla for having us. The next day, it was our last night there. I remember we threw a big hotel party. Be Legit came through. We smoked all night. Mess had his own room at the hotel. I had a couple bitches from Seattle come through that were living in San Jose. We had a ball. Man, it was a successful trip to the Bay. I was on my way back to Arizona, and Kurupt was on his way back to Los Angeles. I told him next time we got to hit Seattle. He said, bet, let's do it.
Have you ever seen two niggas so low-key, fly? Gotti, I'm so OG, curves and chip. Words get spit and spoken live from San Fran, LA to Oakland. San Jose to Sack off Indica Sack. San Diego, stomping the wood to Compton. I'm just too vicious, piranha fishes. I'll make the four dangle on a 4-degree angle. Grab the nickel and split niggas in half like mangoes. I'll spit a verse and let the non-verse. There's still nothing you can do to harm me. I got bitches from U of A all the way.
Ooh, hey, check this out for the record, nigga. Kurupt, Daz, nigga. I fuck with you, nigga. You know what I'm saying? Even if you
Yeah. Real G'd up.
It's real, nigga. It's real with me. Ask the homie that's behind the camera. Turn the camera. Hold on.
They know what it do. They know what it do. We love you, damn Marv.
Have you ever seen two niggas so low-key, fly? Gotti, I'm so OG, curves and chip. Words get spit and spoken live from San Fran, LA to Oakland, San Jose to Sac, all Indica Sac, San Diego, stomping the wood to Compton. I'm just too vicious, piranha fishes. I make the four dangle on a 4-degree angle, grab the nickels and split this in half like mangoes. I split a verse and let the non-verse. Still nothing you can do to hurt me. I got bitches from
Hey, my nigga put shit like this on us in his time.
I'm a mechanical
All day.
Put that on.
And I got a Mac. He didn't even want the other 30-round clip.
Yeah.
I tried to give him 2 of them. I tried to give him like 60. He didn't want the other one. He
Yeah, if
said,
I came back a nigga off with 30 of them, shit.
Hey,
Something wrong. Something wrong.
Dog Pound, DPGC, nigga. Hey, long list.
See me and my nigga Marv, we cause a mess. Bare arms and dump niggas out for the rest. Have you ever seen two niggas so low-key, fly? Gotti, I'm so OG, curves and chip. Words get spit and spoken live from San Fran, LA to Oakland, San Jose to Sac, Indica Sac, San Diego, stomping the wood to Compton. I'm just too vicious, piranha fishes. I'll make a four dangle on a 4-degree angle, grab the nickel and split niggas in half like mangoes. I spit a verse and let the non-verse.
The nigga ain't got a 40 at St. Ives.
I got bitches
Or
from
40 or
way
08.
to Berkeley, let's fly.
Nigga went for the 40
getting
at
me high. I'm a mechanical monster.
He's trying to monitor. Pump's trying to monitor my drink.
Hey, DZ, that's my dude. But nigga, no more 40s and MGD. You know what I'm saying?
He's trying to
You
monitor
got
my
a
drink.
St. Ives or OE. That nigga went for the MGD, bro. That's good, though. I guess it might do
Me
the
and my
same
nigga
thing.
Marv,
I
we
don't know.
call
I ain't
for
know.
that. Bare arms and jump niggas out for the west. Have you ever seen two niggas so low-key, fly? Gotti, I'm so OG, curves and chip. Words get spit and spoken live from San Fran, LA to Oakland, San Jose to Sac, Indica Sac, San Diego, stomping the wood to Compton. I'm just too vicious, piranha fishes. I'll make the floor dangle on a 4-degree angle, grab the nickel and split niggas in half like mangoes. I spit a verse and
What
let
is
the
it? Your boy
non-verse.
DZ doing it real B.I.G. You know what I mean? Out here, fucking with my boy Hump, Messy Marv, Kurupt Young Gotti. You know what I'm saying? Ice in my grill, I'm keeping it true. It's nothing. You know, from Seattle to Fillmore to Oakland, all through the Bay back to LA. It's nothing.
Deals were made, and they all ended up working together, proof that DZ wasn't just talking business, he was making it happen. Messy Marv was genuinely impressed by DZ, not just his music, but his rare ability to build real, organic connections in the industry. That chance encounter turned into a lasting collaboration. Messy featured on all DZ's albums, and DZ returned the love, even teaming up for their group project, Rubber Ducks and Gucci Duffels.
DZ TV, man, 2 blunts. You know how I'm doing it, man. I'm showing up where it's really going down at, man. Get a bar of that. There's only one, man. Record plant, recording studios, DZ TV. What's realer than that? Yeah, I remember this one trip to Cali. I went to go post up with Kurupt for a week, and he decided to record a whole new album while I was there. So every day we would go to Jimmy Iovine's studio called The Record Plant, and he would make songs for his new album called Streetlights. And while we were there, we would run into people like Jimmy Iovine and David Banner and Busta Rhymes and Chris Brown. And Kurupt would have producers like Fred Reck and Battle Cat and Terrace Martin come through. And I don't care who we were with or who we were in front of, Kurupt would always introduce me as his little brother DZ from Seattle and try to make people feel like I was somebody important and like I was somebody special that they should know. And I remember the last night, after he wrapped up the album, we decided to have a listening party. And he invited a bunch of people to the record plant, and DJ Quick came through that night, and we smoked and drank all night, and we had a fucking ball. And all night, Kurupt would introduce me to people as his little brother DZ from Seattle, who helped him put the whole album together. So, man, shout out Kurupt, Young Gotti. You're such a real one. You always been super solid. You always showed me maximum love. You always represented for me in a real way. And you took me under your wing from the very start. And I just want to say I love you and I appreciate you, bro. You know what it is.
As for Kurupt, the bond was undeniable. They became inseparable. DZ, once just a kid grinding in Seattle, found himself living the rap dream. Staying in mansions, hitting shows, studios, video shoots, and industry events right alongside a West Coast legend who believed in him from the start. After graduating college, DZ moved deeper into the game, staying with Kurupt and Daz in Atlanta.
What's up, guys?
Hey, what's happening with it, baby?
We doing it big, man. It's DZ TV. What's happening?
Got the
Live from Seattle all the way out to the AT. What do you want to do besides take your drawers off, bitch?
My brother Hub, what's the business up?
Crippin'. All the time.
Rich rolling, huh?
Neighbors only.
Neighbors only.
They know what it is. Los Angeles.
Like a nigga yeah, got it.
That's how I do it.
The money go good. You gotta stay away if you a bust that nigga. Lose their mind. They gonna be banging on shit. Oh, bang to it. Oh, let's go, come on. Bang, they gonna be, I don't go to high school, I go to school high.
They ran the city club to club, making waves in the dirty South. From sessions at Outkast's legendary Stankonia studios to partying with Atlanta Falcons players, it felt like something straight out of a movie. DZ's second album dropped, and by then, he was a name in Seattle. With his close connection to Kurupt, people assumed he was already signed, and in a way, he was family. He was making money, making music, and making moves. Because in this game, it's not just about who you know, it's about who knows you. And DZ, he proved that every step of the way.